Hey everybody, it's Chase here at Rocky Mountain, back at you with another riding tip video. Today is my top 5 tips for sizing up and hitting a new jump for the first time. No, this is not how do you learn how to jump, because I've already done a video like that. This goes over the basics of jumping technique. This is about, you've already learned to jump, you kind of have the technique down, but maybe you're at a track that you haven't ridden before and there's a jump that you're not quite sure of, or maybe at your local track they built a new jump and you got to figure out what the speed is on this thing and you're trying to get it all right. That's what these tips are all about today. Hey, if you have other tips that maybe I don't share, comment those down below. Tip number 1 that I'm gonna give is always do a risk assessment of any jump that you're gonna be hitting. What I mean by that is, some jumps are super forgiving. It's totally fine. You can go way long, you can come up way short, and there's not really any big consequence to that. There's other jumps though that it might be a legitimate double where you really can't come up short, or maybe it's a steep landing and it's gonna be a bad consequence if you go long. You just gotta do a risk assessment and make sure, hey, if you're not quite comfortable doing the jump, just don't do it. Save it for another day. That's my first tip. Tip number 2 though, and this is something that I like to do, is anytime you're looking at a jump that you haven't done before, you're not quite sure of the speed, you always wanna try and give your brain something to reference that it's familiar with. So I always like to look from the side. So if I'm riding this track today at Cache Valley MX, let's say I've never been here before, there's a straightaway going right here that goes right past this jump behind me. I'm gonna be looking at this jump from the side as I roll past it, so I can kind of gauge in my mind, okay, that looks about the same distance as this jump that I've already done before. And your brain can say, okay, I know how far that is. I know about how fast you should go. So always try and look at a jump from the side, because if you're just looking at it straight on, your brain has no idea how far that is. It doesn't really know how to calculate what gear you should be in or how fast you should go. So look at it from the side to try and reference something that you've jumped before. And then you can say, okay, that's about the same as this, or maybe that's a little bit bigger than this jump that I've hit, so I'm gonna go just a little bit faster. Tip number 3 is just evaluate the jump face and the landing. Jumps that are a little bit poppier, you just know that you probably wanna give it a little bit of gas, a blip off the lip. That's gonna help prevent an endo. For jump faces that are more mellow, you can be steady as you leave the jump face. So just look at those. Also look at landings. No, okay, this landing is actually pretty short, it's a little bit steep, so if you're not quite skilled at landing maybe nose heavy, again, that's doing that whole risk assessment. But if you have a nice, long, gradual landing, those are the best, right? Because then, not much consequence there. You can go a little bit long, come up a little bit short, but evaluate the jump face just to know how is this jump going to kick me or launch me as I leave. All right, tip number 4 is get a toe in. Now, I say this with caution, okay? I'm gonna give you just a little bit of personal experience. Had a rider that I work with at Rocky Mountain. We were at a local track in Salt Lake, and there's this pretty big jump on this track. It's kind of a big step-up jump, and it's pretty forgiving. You can go way long. It's a really tall landing. It's really long. You'd have a hard time over-jumping this thing, but you don't want to come up too short. So this rider, I won't give names, but and I'm gonna take a little bit of fault here, because I said, hey man, do you want me to give you a tow? And he's like, yeah, let's do it. Because I could tell he had never done it before. I could tell he wanted to, so I offered some help. He didn't tow me right. So what happened was he was on a 250, I was on a 450. That was probably the first mistake. And I said, all right, man, stay right on my tail. Well, here's what happened. So I go off the jump, I'm in 3rd gear. What had happened was this rider did not stay close enough behind me, so he actually didn't really know how fast I was going off the jump face, because I landed, and when I looked back, I expected to see him not far behind me. He was just barely leaving the jump face, and he came up so short, he broke both his ankles. It was a bad day, and so when I say find someone to get a tow off of, there's a correct way to do a tow. First of all, find someone at your skill level that's gonna tow you off of a jump. The reason I say that's because the way that a fast A rider or a pro rider goes off a jump is a lot different than an intermediate amateur rider. Pro riders are gonna come in really hard on the gas, they're gonna shut off the throttle, and they're gonna use their momentum in most jumps to carry them over the entire jump. Amateurs will typically just be steady throttle all the way through the run-in and off the jump face. So don't find some fast A rider to help tow you off the jump if you're an intermediate rider. Find somebody that's your skill level that also does the jump, follow that person. Tip number 5, and this is a don't, Don't just ask somebody, hey, what gear do you hit that jump in? How fast do you think you're going? Are you wide open? Are you are you half throttle, 3/4 throttle? Same thing kind of goes along with getting a toe in. My 3/4 throttle is probably a lot different than somebody else's, okay? And when somebody tells you, hey, hit the jump wide open, never listen to that advice. And I'm saying this with kindness. Most amateur riders probably don't know what the throttle stop feels like as they're going off a jump. You might feel like you're wide open, but you're probably not. So if somebody says hit it wide open, don't take that advice. Now look, there may be some jumps that you do need to hit wide open. Those are rare circumstances, but in most cases, that's not gonna be what you probably wanna do. So I don't recommend just asking somebody, and I always say too, this goes along with that, it's always safer to use a taller gear when you're hitting any jump. If you can hit third gear, if you can hit a jump in third gear, I would always usually recommend that, because the taller the gear, the more easy it is to keep your bike level off the jump face. It's not gonna wanna pitch you forward. You're not as likely to do a rocket ship if you do give a little bit of gas off the lip. So the taller the gear that you can hit the jump in, the better it's gonna be for you. Those are my top 5 tips. I'm sure you've got some great stories. I would love to hear those. Was there a jump that you asked somebody to tow you off of, or you asked somebody what gear or how fast they were going? Probably some good and some not so good stories, but I would love to hear those, so comment those down below. If you have any other tips that maybe I didn't share today, please comment those down below. If you like this ride tip video, this top 5, get subscribed to the RM Rides YouTube channel. I do a lot of other riding tip videos. I do this with the grassroots method with Riley Bruff and the Bruff brothers, so get subscribed if you haven't already and stay up to date. Thanks for watching. I'm Chase, and we'll see you on the trails.